Hello, welcome back to 340 Paddler. Today I want to discuss mistakes I've made at the 340. Of course, I've raced the 340 a few times. I have 6 finishes. I started towards the back of the pack, 78 hours my first year, to a little bit better times now. And what I want to do is go over some of the mistakes that I've made so that hopefully you don't have to go through the same suffering and near suffering that I did. So, obviously, we're all trying to get to St. Charles. We're all trying to eat a popsicle in the middle of the river. Don't ask. This was 2012. It was incredibly hot. It was a different kind of time. It was all kinds of trippy. Anyway, moving on. So, 2012, one of the first mistakes that I made was not eating. And it sounds kind of stupid. What do you mean, not eating? Well, on my way to Lexington, I kept eating food on a regular basis. Most of us will try and eat, or the recommendation generally is to try and eat a few bites every 30 to 60 minutes and try and drink every 20 minutes. Well, I got to Lexington. I was fine. I had half of a cheeseburger. I pushed off. It's 3 o'clock in the afternoon. It's really hot because this was the really hot triple-digit year. And I got to Waverly and I couldn't eat anything. And in fact, from Waverly to Jeff City, I sustained myself completely on, well, not barbecue, but Boost shakes and watermelon. So, kind of a note, if you're looking for a backup plan or a backup to your backup plan, get Boost or Ensure shakes, some of those nutritional shakes. They may not taste great, but it may be just enough to keep you going until your stomach functions again. By Jeff City, that was about noontime, day 3 in 2012, and I had a sausage biscuit, and it was like it was sent from heaven or a microwave, whichever. It was fantastic. 2012, once again, Sunburn. It was my first year. I thought, hey, no problem. I'll put on sunscreen first thing in the morning at Caw Point, and I won't think about it until Lexington, because how am I going to put it on anyway? I mean, it's ridiculous. You can't expect me to stop and put on sunscreen. Well, you can't really see it from the photo, but I had incredible sunburn, like blistering sunburn on my ears, on back of my neck, etc. It was bad. And where it got really bad is day 2. So day 2, the sun comes up. As soon as that sun hits my skin, I feel like I've been dropped into hydrochloric acid. It is horrible. So, reapply sunscreen in the boat. Use spray-on sunscreen. Just keep layering it on. By the time you get to the finish, you'll be able to peel it off. It'll freak people out. It'll be great. Your 4-year-old will cry and say she's scared, but just ignore that. Keep doing it. It's good for them. Anyway, moving on. 2013. Bit of a story here. Most of these have stories, and I apologize. This is going to be a long video. 2013, I bought a new boat. Okay, fine. Bought a new boat. I actually bought it 5 days before the race. I had registered. I hadn't intended to run the race because my training just wasn't there, as in I hadn't done any, mostly due to work. So I found this great deal on a QCC 700. I bought it. It was used. And on my drive home from Madison, I went, you know, I still have that registration and I have this fancy schmancy boat. Let's go race. Yeah. The boat tried to kill me. What it did is it tried to bore through my back and steal my kidneys somewhere outside of Glasgow. Now, thankfully, it wasn't terribly successful, but there's a lesson to be learned, which is don't change things immediately before the race unless you have to. And if you do change things, excepting the boat, for example, you change a seat because it really didn't work at Freedom, then what you want to do is bring the old system as well, because at least you know that's the devil you know. The new system might work great. The new system might really hate you and try and cut you outside of Glasgow. So, something to keep in mind. 2014, paddling into the fog. This has nothing to do with it. My daughter was about 8 months old in 2014, and she came along for the race. She's been there for every 340 I've paddled. She'll be there again this year. Anyway, paddling into the fog. another story time. So I'm paddling from Jeff City to Herman, and it's early morning on day 3. We had left Jeff City about 2-3 in the morning, and we're coming up on Chamois. We're about 4 miles out of Chamois. We hit a fog bank. Awesome. So I stay river right, where I can see the trees. I know that I'm not on the channel side, which isn't a great place to be, but it's better than the middle of the river. And I just make sure that I am close enough that I can see the trees. As long as I can see the trees, I have orientation. And I get to Chamois. And then I make a faithful mistake. Instead of sitting at Chamois waiting for the fog to lift, where there's a bathroom and a shower and a playground and people, no, what I do instead is go, I think the fog is lifting. I get my little competitive edge up. And I get back in the water, and half a mile later, I realize it really hasn't lifted. This is really stupid, and I'm now stuck behind a wing dike in the mud with no shower or bathroom or people or playground. None of it. Brought on myself. Do not leave a ramp if there's fog. Take the time to take a nap. Take the time to do something else. And do not rely on GPS like we've talked about before, because you may have a track. You may even know where the wing dikes are, but you don't know where the buoys are, where the barges are, where the massive pieces of debris are. So make sure that you're off the river in a fog. 2014, wrong bridge span. This one goes out to Scott Mansker, our fearless and sleepless leader. Scott, in the safety meeting in 2014, told us about the Daniel Boone Bridge and told us, hey, go through the far left span. And he had pictures, and he was shouting, and he handed out t-shirts, and we had little models, and he created a hologram, and everything you could think of to convince us to go through the left span, because that was the open span. And here's what it looked like, or part of what it looked like. This, you'll notice, is the right side of the Daniel Boone, also known as the Bridge of Lost Hope bridge around Chesterfield, right at the end of the race. Now, you can't see it, but on the far left bank, far left span is perfectly clear. You can zip right through there, no problem. But at about 10 o'clock at night, myself and someone who will remain nameless, Matt Thomas, we're following someone up into this bridge, and we thought we were following someone. We thought that we saw a red light go through this span right here. So we said, oh, well, we must have made a mistake, or Scott made a mistake. We'll go through that way. And being the coward that I am, I convinced Matt to go first, and he went through this span, and he ran into this wall. Well, he didn't run into it. He saw it, U-turned, and came back out this way. I, meanwhile, go blitzing through this one because, of course, I don't have time to make any other decision. I find pilings, I find crazy whirlpools and hydraulics. I'm convinced that I should have died somewhere under the Daniel Boone Bridge. And it gets worse because right here or so is a parked barge. And it's one of the construction barges. It has the anchor ropes running off of it. And what I did is I didn't see the anchor ropes. I passed through under one of them and then turned a quick almost 90 to go around the second one. This was a horrible idea. Moral of the story, listen to Scott. Do what Scott says. If Scott says far left and it looks like you're going to hit a crane, just go for it. Just trust Scott. Don't trust your own brain. Trust Scott. And by the way, to keep this reasonable, I'm going to break this video into 2 parts, so there will be a part 2 coming up.